go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Live from the broadcasting house here in the county of Nairobi, just in time for KBC Lunchtime News. Thank you so much indeed for making time. My name is Bentroy Njue. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up here for you. And of course, for suggestions, comment, or even where you are watching us from, we highly recommend. Now, straight to the news. At least 178 job seekers who were to travel to Saudi Arabia for greener pastures have camped at Kitengela police station to seek justice on what they termed as foreplay by their agent. The ladies, aged between 21 years and 35 years old, were housed at a training institution where they were learning the basics of working in the Middle East, but the training took longer than the time agreed. They are now seeking to be given back funds to travel back home and find alternative income sources.
The irate job seekers camped at the Kitengela police station with their luggage after allegedly being duped by agents who were supposed to have them fly to the Middle East for jobs. According to them, a 3-week training was supposed to precede their travel, but that too took longer than expected.
Leo tuliambiwa ndio siku ya mwisho kufika leo saa 5, principal alituita hall akatuambia anatupea last report.
Sasa tumekaa mpaka saa hizi wanatudanganya tutafanya exam hatujafanya mpaka saa hizi.
6 weeks later, they were promised an exam at a manpower training institution in the interior parts of Kitengela, but that too didn't happen. They were also promised free tickets to Saudi Arabia, but for them, all they want now is money to travel back home.
Tunataka kusaidika. Kani nyumbani tunaenda tuende. Waache kutudanganya. Sisi ni watu wazazi tumeacha watoto nyumbani.
When reached for comments, the institute management of the record said the delay was due to slow processing of assessments. These stranded job seekers were, however, directed to the Athi River police station because their case falls under the Machakos County jurisdiction. Yusufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
Elsewhere, an attempt by Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduor to implicate his boss, Siaya Governor James Orengo, with corruption allegations seemed to have backfired after the Siaya County Assembly members instead threatened the Deputy Governor with impeachment. The MCAs threw out corruption allegations that the Deputy Governor had raised against Orengo's administration, terming them as unsubstantiated.
Also to tell the great people of Siaya that
Siaya County Assembly members are pushing for the removal of Siaya Deputy Governor from office. William Oduor is at loggerheads with his boss, Governor James Orengo, after poking holes at his administration citing corruption scandals. East Assembly Ward member of the County Assembly, Godwin Ongoro, gave the notice immediately after the County Assembly threw out corruption allegations that the Deputy Governor had raised against Orengo administration, terming them as unsubstantiated. Tabling the report of the Committee on General Oversight that investigated allegations by Oduor, Osonga member of the County Assembly Sylvester Madialo accused the Deputy Governor for allegedly giving false information.
mere potential without proof, without substance. And the street of what is not substantiated, in other words, has no substance. And Mr. Speaker, this House direct that in the future, all state officers within this government, and that includes ourselves.
Will you tell me that it will be tenable for us here in Siaya to invite head teachers for all the 300 schools?
The complaints range from alleged illegal transfer of funds into the county interest account, irregular payments of interest to officers, alleged payroll fraud, discriminatory budget, unfair disciplinary process and harassment of persons close to the deputy governor, among others.
The DG was at the heart of the campaigns when we were telling our people that upon assumption of office, Mr. Speaker, then they will not need to suffer thinking about seats and fertilizers.
Your motion has met the threshold and it has been, notice has been given, but it will be tabled for consideration. The motion will be placed in the order paper and you will discuss on merit.
Timothy Kipnoso, for Lunchtime News.
In other news, President William Ruto is chairing a parliamentary group meeting with legislators allied to the Kenya Kwanza ahead of the resumption of Senate sitting this afternoon. The president is rallying legislators to support the proposed finance bill that will aid the government in meeting its financial commitments. The bill that has generated public debate in the country, with a section of opposition MPs threatening to reject sections of the bill. As the senators resume in their entry will be the debate and adoption of the 2023-2024 budget statement that will also unlock funds for counties. Treasury and Cabinet Secretary is expected to present the budget in a joint sitting of Parliament on the 10th of June. The National Assembly will resume its sittings on 6th of June ahead of the budget reading. And further afield, the G7 summit came to an end in Hiroshima, Japan, Sunday, with members drawn from the International Political Forum taking a tough stance against Russia, China, and North Korea. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who currently holds the presidency of the world's wealthiest nation, asked the three countries to adhere to the United Nations treaties and join the international community in securing peace across the globe.
The Hiroshima Plan of Action, released in one of the cities that were hit in 1945 by an atomic bomb, bringing to an end the Second World War, hosted the G7 summit this week. The member states undertook to scale up sanctions against Russia and those supporting its war efforts in Ukraine.
And that the threat of use of nuclear weapons, let alone its use by Russia, are inadmissible.
Ukraine, whose leader Vladimir Zelensky, who graced the summit, will in turn continue to receive support from the G7 members. While addressing an international press briefing to mark the end of the summit, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida described Kremlin's attack on Ukraine as a threat to the whole world.
For the G7 to have invited President Zelensky to Japan to show G7's unwavering solidarity with Ukraine.
As the curtains come down on the G7 summit in Hiroshima, member states have reiterated additional sanctions on Moscow to force it to end the attacks on Ukraine. Besides the conflict in Eastern Europe, the leaders committed to strengthening the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation treaty towards achieving a world without nuclear weapons.
North Korea is launching ballistic missiles, which is unprecedented in both frequency and manner, and that this is a serious concern. And the G7 strongly condemned the repeated launches of ballistic missiles.
In the plan of action, the G7 further called on the biggest polluters to adhere to measures aimed at realizing net zero carbon development. Judith Akolo, Hiroshima, Japan.
Back home, Makueni Senator Daniel Maanzo and Kaiti MP Joshua Kimilu have faulted the Kenya Kwanza administration for delaying the completion of mega projects initiated by the previous national government in Makueni County. The two leaders noted that among the major projects delayed was the Thwake Dam, which they say its completion has slowed down owing to funding challenges. Other major stalled projects, according to the legislators, include Water Stadium in Makueni constituency, Sultan Hamoud, Katua Road in Kaiti and Tawa, Itangini Road in Mboni.
Kulipewa Thwake Dam na Rais Kibaki. Ndio Kitui iwe na maji, Makueni iwe na maji, Kajiado iwe na maji na Machakos iwe na maji. Na sana sana Konza City. Sasa kufunga Thwake ni kufunga Konza City.
Tunaomba rais badala ya kuanza kufanya projects zingine mpya. Zile projects zilikuwa zimeanzishwa na sio katikati, simaliziwe. Kwa sababu hakuna haja kama project kama Thwake Dam, project kama Techno City. Zimekwama na mahali zimefika, zingesaidia wananchi sana.
Now, detectives from Karori police station are holding 5 suspects who were in the company of a lady whose body was found lying in a pool of blood. The deceased is suspected to have fallen from a 7-story building in Gasharage, Waka, Kiamba constituency. Confirming the incident, Kiamba Deputy County Commissioner Peter Maina said the 5 suspects will remain in custody as investigations into the incident continue. The deceased, Catherine Njeri, aged 23 years old, is said to have left the 5 and went to the pavilion where the incident occurred. The body of the deceased was moved to Kihara Hospital mortuary awaiting postmortem.
Usiku kwa tu hapa chini ndo tusikia sauti ya kugonga kitu kama ni kama mkeka imeanguka. Sasa juu gari ilikuwa imefunika pale, hakuna vile ningeenda niseme ninge-identify directly. Lakini vile niliposimama kwenda kuangalia nikapata ni mtu. Hapo ndo nilipigia serikali.
And in the suspected room where she was, there were 5 gentlemen whom were picked and they are in custody right now, and investigation is still going on.
Kama familia tunataka kujua ni kama alijirusha ama alirushwa and what exactly was happening uko juu.
Away from that, residents of Isiolo have been urged to embrace alternative justice systems for dispute resolutions in a bid to decongest the law courts. Environment and Land Court Judge Justice Peter Njoroge says the move will reduce caseloads in law courts and maintain cordial relationship among families and neighbors.
Addressing members of the public at the Isiolo Law Court grounds during a cultural event organized by the judiciary, to sensitize community members on the need to support the alternative dispute resolution calls, Environment and Lands Court Judge Justice Peter Njoroge and Isiolo Law Court's Chief Magistrate Lucy Mutai noted that there are plenty of advantages when people resolve their conflicts with the help of elders as opposed to squaring it out in the courts of law. Justice Peter Njoroge stressed that the use of elders in resolving conflicts will reduce the backlog of cases in courts and consequently speed up the process of ensuring that justice is served.
Na shida ile iko na yale makesi tunayo ni ya mabwenyenye wakihadaa yule mtu wa chini. Na huyo mtu wa chini akitaka kuwa na nguvu aingilie hii kitu. Ikiwa ni kitu yetu, tunaenda kwetu kijiji, tunaita wale watu wanajua, tunasikiza.
Elders from the various ethnic communities living in Isiolo have been urged to uphold the highest levels of integrity in order to ensure that justice is served rightly.
Alternative justice system ni njia mbadala ambayo watu wanakaa chini. Kama ni Kiborona mnaongea Kiborona, kama ni Kisomali tunaongea Kisomali, kama ni Kisamburu tunaongea Kisamburu. Inarahisisha ile jambo hata kutatulika.
Isiolo Interfaith Chairman Sheikh Ahmed Set warned involved elders to desist from any form of malpractice so as to protect the institution of councils of elders who handled cases in the traditional African setup since time immemorial.
Kama binadamu tunakuwa na mgongano hapa na pale kila siku. Mahakama si suluhisho. Mahakama vile iko na shida zake, haina rasilimali ya kutosha, haina wafanyakazi ya kutosha, na matatizo ya Wakenya milioni 60. Kila siku ukiamuka kwa nyumba kuna shida. Kwa hivyo ikaonekana tutatue matatizo yetu kupitia tamaduni zetu, tukafufua tamaduni zetu.
Moving on, in a bid to alleviate themselves from mental challenges occasioned by the nature of their work, prison warders from Central Kenya have resorted to engaging in sports competition. The competitions are anticipated to go a long way in boosting their morale at work.
Games are so good to officers in that currently, we have stress levels are so high. So in the event that officers are engaged in these activities, then you find even teamwork.
Wakati unatoka kazi unapata ile refreshment ya michezo, at least inasaidia, inatoa ile mawazo yenye ulikuwa umepatana huko ndani, so inasaidia.
We enhance the teamwork and we build capacity amongst ourselves by interacting with each other, and that ends up even bringing the moral of those up.
Elsewhere, the government has reiterated its commitment to entrench fiscal discipline in the public sector in a move to enhance efficiency, transparency, accountability, and prudent management of public resources in service delivery. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said this will encompass the ability of government to sustain smooth monetary operation and long-standing fiscal condition. Mudavadi said in a speech read on his behalf by the Principal Secretary in the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Oleria Rono, at the official opening of the second phase of the Economic Governance Program between Kenya and South Africa at the Kenya School of Government in Mombasa County.
Across Africa's public service, it can be said that fiscal discipline is our undoing. That this program is impacting knowledge on fiscal discipline regarding policy formulation, implementation, and accountability as a key component of economic governance is a breath of fresh air.
A rather disturbing story. A family in Ilesi village, Shinyalu, Kakamega County is seeking justice after their 14-year-old girl was allegedly sexually assaulted by a 30-year-old man. According to the family, the man was arrested but later released by security agents. Parents of the girl claim that the man later tried to break into their home, threatening to harm the family. It is alleged that the OCS at Hayega police station directed the release of the suspect, citing orders from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. The 14-year-old says she has lived with the man throughout the month of April, refusing to proceed with her studies before the two were arrested at the suspect's residence. The suspect, who agreed to have lived with the girl, said she took the girl to his house after she had asked for bus fare. Village elders have, however, raised an alarm over the increase of such cases in which culprits are later released in unclear circumstances.
Mbona leo hujaenda shule? Kama unaenda shule, kama wewe ni mwanafunzi ndio tu kwa shule usome.
hata kama ni kitu nyondelea mimi nasiko kusaidia yako, lakini wewe ndio tu usome. Siwezi kukataza kusoma. Akaniambia mimi sisomi, si mwanafunzi. Nikamwambia ni sawa.
Ananiambia nataka tuishi na yeye. Nimwambia nataka niishi na yeye. Yenyewe aliniambia nirudi shule, mimi nikamkataza. Mimi nikamwambia mimi nishakupenda. Nikamwambia shule sirudi.
Si tukaacha kwa mikono ya serikali wakisema kesho ni kotini. Mimi nikawauliza, naweza kufika kotini huko? Wakaniambia haina haja wewe kuja kotini. Baada ya siku 2 mimi naona huu kijana kwa geti kwangu kwa boma. Haya, mimi kumuuliza nini unatafuta? Hakunielezea, ananiadanganya nimetumwa kwa mtu fulani. Nikamwambia hakuna kunidanganya, umetokaje huko penye nilikupeleka? Kumbe sikujua ako na silaha kwa gumboots, kwa mguu, kwa socks.
Aswe huyu kijana ako kwa grupu ya Bulambo. Juzi Bulambo wamekatakata watu na panga. Bado tunaendelea na hiyo maneno, tena ndio huyu kijana amepatikana na hiyo hatia sasa ya kushika mtoto wa shule. Sisi kama village elder tuko na shida sana. Tunashika watu, tunapeleka kwa police station, hao watu wanarudi.
Kufika huko sijui nini iliendelea, usisi akamwachilia. Kozi wakati napeleka watu kama hao huko, wakirudi wanatayarisha maisha yetu. Wanatuambia mmetupeleka, wametufanya nini? Tumerudi tuko kwa area.
We hope that she finally gets justice. Elsewhere, Kenyans joined up for a march aimed at raising funds for childhood cancer diagnosis and treatment. The walk was organized by Gertrude's Children's Hospital to help increase awareness of childhood cancer while helping to build a stronger support system for the children who are battling the disease.
People laced their shoes and joined a walk at Nairobi's Uhuru Gardens in a display of solidarity and to raise funds for childhood cancer diagnosis and treatment during the 2nd annual cancer walk organized by Gertrude's Children's Hospital. Dr. Robert Nyarango of Gertrude's Hospital said the walk was intended to raise awareness about childhood cancers and assist the hospital in accelerating early diagnosis of the disease. He noted that 80% of childhood cancers are curable, but only 2 out of 10 children are treated.
It will be about 3,000 kids who get cancer every year. The problem is that only about 30% get diagnosed, and of those, only about 30% get full treatment to full remission. So we are starting a movement to bring together many partners to raise awareness, to raise funds.
This is a cause that we're very keen to support. This is very much in line with our commitment to social responsibility, to securing financial well-being, physical, emotional, and health well-being of all Kenyans. And we feel that every step on this walk symbolizes better awareness of this disease.
Gertrude's Hospital Kenya Childhood Cancer Program is working with county governments to establish a diagnosis and referral system and is already engaging healthcare workers to improve their capacity in providing quality and holistic cancer treatment.
We have trained more than 200 healthcare workers from 4 counties, and we aim to scale this up and be able to train more healthcare workers so that they're able to just detect childhood cancer early and refer appropriately.
For Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
On information, communication and digital economy, Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the government will ensure all Kenyans are listed in a digital identification system by mid-next year. Speaking during the 7th edition of the Augmented General Meeting of ID for Africa movement, Owalo emphasized that the government will ensure the shift to digital platforms to enhance connectivity and government services. The Principal Secretary in the State Department for Citizen Services, Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Ambassador Julius Bitok, said the government will adopt a unique identification number as it transitions from 2nd-generation identity cards to 3rd-generation identity cards.
Our interest is to ensure that there is a technological avenue through which government can determine who is doing business with. That is the rationale of the digital identity. So we are not reinventing the Huduma number together with the attendant baggages. No, we are not doing that. What we are saying is that each and every Kenyan needs to be on a digital identity to be able to virtually consume government services from the comfort of wherever they are.
So I welcome development partners to partner with us, because we have quite a number of components that we can invest on a public-private partnership arrangement and be able to come out.
And at about 25 minutes past the top of the hour, we are taking our first break. But don't go away. On the other side of the break, we'll be having more news, including a business interview that you do not want to miss.
Berlin is calling. The footballing fraternity is taking note. Defending champions RB Leipzig have reached the DFB Pokal final for the third successive season after an emphatic 5-1 win over SC Freiburg.
Danny Olmo, there's no pressure on him, and he's found Nkunku! Ruthless!
Similarly, Eintracht Frankfurt are into the final of the DFB Cup following a 3-2 victory over VfB Stuttgart. The DFB Pokal hits a crescendo on Saturday, 3rd June at 9 p.m. when RB Leipzig will be up against Eintracht Frankfurt, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Don't miss out on the unexpected delight.
It is Colomwani against Bredlow, a battle Colomwani was never going to lose.
KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the Hustler Fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back and thanks for keeping it KBC. Well, the county government of Garissa has launched its first ever oxygen plant. The system, which is expected to save more than 500,000 lives annually, was funded by United States Agency for International Development, USAID, at a cost of 26.8 million Kenya shillings.
It is a reprieve to close to 1 million residents of Garissa County after the county government, in collaboration with the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, installed the first ever oxygen plant in the county. The system can make medical oxygen from the air clean enough to be used by patients in the facility and shared with nearby health facilities, and is expected to greatly cut on cost and time used by residents to source the same services elsewhere.
We've been running up and down during COVID. BOC was actually packed and they were giving oxygen in terms of priorities. So you can imagine traveling from Garissa 300 kilometers plus with cylinders, loading a bus or loading a GPO or a vehicle, government official, to actually go and look for this commodity. Now at our comfort zone, we are going to have this commodity available in Garissa, and I know we are also going to support the private facilities who are actually going for these commodities again 300 kilometers above.
Speaking at the launch, Governor Nadif Jama expressed his commitment to working with donors in improving health facilities in the county.
In terms of financial saving, I'm told that up to about 600,000+ per month of money will be saved by the hospital from procuring this commodity from Nairobi. Of course, it also expands the breadth of the hospital in terms of its reach out to not only the sub-counties and the far corners of the county, but also even to the neighboring other counties who will make use of this very, very important commodity.
At the handing over of the machine, the agency also provided the county with 2 years' worth of commodities for oxygen and maintenance of the plant.
The Garissa health team can attest to, we've been doing virtual meetings, virtual capacity building, grouping up to manage cases, difficult cases in this hospital, and this has really resorted to quality of care for this client. So for me, I want to shorten this discussion and say, Governor, we have the plant with us for Garissa people.
For Lunchtime News, I'm Zainab Said.
And on that note, now we make sense of shillings and cents in business. Betty Kiptumo is on the other side of the studio with the day's business, together with that interview I told you about. Kiptum?
Thank you very much, Ben, for putting on together.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the Hustler Fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard, every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for watching Lunchtime News on KBC Channel 1. Time to get the latest in the world of business. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, the Parliamentary Committee on Defence, Intelligence and Foreign Relations says that a critical funding gap of 800 million shillings has led to a recruitment freeze for the past 2 years. While presenting the report for consideration on budget estimates, the committee wants allocation of the National Intelligence Service adjusted downwards by 500 million shillings. The recommendations are set to be tabled in Parliament for consideration by the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the House.
Is used by intelligence to collect information. Proposal by the Ministry of Defence to acquire a lot under the ECA program. ECA is external credit arrangement financing, which will allow them to buy, for instance, APCs, armored personnel carrier for the military, to be used for border securitization. The President has made a commitment that by 2023-2024, our officers who are in Somalia should be coming back to the country. So the border has to be secured. It involves buying of cameras, buying of sensors, buying of patrol vehicles, and normally you have vehicles that can withstand mines, and those are the APCs, which is also captured in this budget. There's also our current Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters is an old one. Does not give the face of Kenya when visitors come into the country, and there's a request to have it moved. Already, the government of China has expressed willingness to build for us that Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and as it is now, we are in the process of acquiring land for that construction. It is also secured in this.
Well, now we want to have a conversation in studio about matters trade relations between Ghana and Kenya. In studio with me is Alexander Dajawa. He is a director at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
As well as Honorable Catherine Afeku. She is in charge of communications at the African Continental Free Trade Area Coordination Office in Ghana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're very much welcome. We say karibuni in Kenya. Yes. So let's start with where Kenya and Ghana are. I mean, the two countries were the first to sign the agreement, and already some shipment has happened, at least from Kenya to Ghana. How is that going? Let's start with you, Catherine.
First and foremost, Betty, we have to thank your viewers and our sisters and brothers in Kenya for receiving us so warmly. As you rightfully said, the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, the first two countries that signed were Ghana and Kenya. And in recent past, Kenya, the Ketapa board of the tea growers and other, I think it was just Ketapa, they brought a shipload of sample shipping to Ghana. So now we actually did the trade facilitation for tea from Kenya to come to Ghana. The past 2 days we've been in your beautiful country to also establish a Ghana Export Trade House and an exhibition of Ghanaian organic products wholly made in Ghana at the Sarit Expo Center that is just opened today. So the bilateral relations between the two countries is deepened with these symbolic gestures and also actualizing the trade between our two regional blocks, because what we did is bringing things to Kenya symbolizes that the East African market will see Kenya as a hub. And in the same vein, Kenya will reciprocate and set up a similar venture in Ghana to also take an opportunity of the West African market. So we're here to showcase Ghanaian products and also to entreat our fellow Kenyan citizens to come to Sarit Center to patronize.
Right. I like that you've mentioned that Kenya being the hub of East Africa.
Yes.
I'll go to you, Alexander. I mean, what have you witnessed in terms of collaboration between the Ghanaian and the Kenyan side, considering that there were some barriers that, just made sure that business was not really going on, and now those barriers are being brought down? How is that going?
Well, I would say, building on what Honorable Afeku said, it's a good sign, and things are beginning to open up. The bilateral trade between Kenya and Ghana have been going on very well. We've seen a flow of activities by Kenyan businessmen and businesswomen coming to Accra, signaling that we want to work together. The essence of the AFCFTA is to actually break those barriers and make trading in goods and services easier, and more importantly, the tariff regimes in our various countries will go over time. And we have seen those efforts going. Even though the level of trade in terms of values are not that encouraging, the fact that we have started the process is very good. A few years back, you will not hear that Ghana is exporting much to the Kenyan market and vice versa. But these days, things are moving fast. That even symbolizes the way Kenya Airways is coming to Ghana. I hear they have more than 5 flights daily coming to Accra and then coming back to Nairobi. And that's a good sign for business. So that is why we are here. And ours is just to build on that process, because I represent the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, which whose objective is to increase trade. And we are very good products, as our sister has said, that we want to introduce to the Kenyan market. It's not as though you don't know about it already, but to make it closer home to you. And on the launch of the trade house, Chief Executive made it amply clear that Kenya don't need to travel that far to get the goods, because our intention is to bring it closer home, so you can go and order and then it will go to you here.
I'd like us to remain with that point of Africans trading with Africans. I mean, it has taken the longest time, and even implementation of the AfCFTA itself is having a bit of challenges. The pilot phase has about 8 countries, if I'm not wrong, Kenya and Ghana, of course, being some of them. Why aren't more countries taking it up, Honorable Afeku?
As you rightfully said, this is a legacy from the days of Jomo Kenyatta and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. They've always had the vision to trade and to build the bridges as a people together. We have what we call the non-tariff barriers, but the records are very encouraging. Out of the 55 African countries, 46 have actually signed on to the agreement and 44 have ratified, which means trade can officially begin amongst 44 of our fellow countrymen and women. So the progress of it is more education, using mediums such as yours to educate our citizenry, that we are over 1.4 billion as a market, one single market, and the establishment of a secretariat in Ghana signals that Africa is ready to trade amongst itself. We have the diplomacy, we have the emancipation, political freedom, but economic emancipation is really the last block to make Africans reach where we can actually have poverty and also bring a lot of people on board, because private sector is really the roadmap to release our people from the shackles of poverty. So there is progress. It is not all rosy, but there is progress, and I can also commend the Kenyan government and our government leading the way. We did what we call the guided trade. It was about 8 countries, but now you can freely ship your goods to all these 46 countries that have ratified, and you look at the certificate of origin, how much of the tariff is being dismantled, and over a period of 10 years, it will be 0 tariff. So we've made progress as a people, and we need to encourage each other, because there's always that tendency of discouragement. I think we're doing well, because if you look at World Trade Organization, the European Union, it took more than 17 years for them to trade, but with Africa, they met in Rwanda in 2018, and COVID aside, we're in 2023, and we are actually seeing goods moving from country A to country B. We just need the young people to take advantage of this opportunity.
Take advantage. We shall talk about that in just a little bit. Let's get one story, then we shall get back to this conversation. Legislators from the coastal region have been urged to champion the training of the youth on blue economy and maritime affairs. Jomvu Member of Parliament Badi Twalib urged legislators should earmark cash from their national government constituency development fund for training.
The blue economy and maritime sector has been grappling with the skills gap. To bridge this, industry players have committed to provide employment opportunities to the youth to oversee their transition into the maritime industry and overall welfare.
Tunasema kuwa nafasi ile not only ikave in a certain place, lakini ni muhimu kuona kuwa vijana wote waweze kuona kuwa wameweza kupata hiyo kitu inaitwa capacity building.
Additionally, they say plans are underway to ensure that the number of seafarers increases from the current 488 to 100,000 by the year 2027. This, they say, will unlock access to jobs in the international maritime fleets for the youth.
Mombasa, we should talk on one voice ya kuona kwa issue hii ya maritime issue tunaweza kuifuata kwenye njia ambayo itakuwa iko sasa.
To this end, they called on more women to take up opportunities in the sector.
Tunaungana pamoja na Kenya Maritime Authority na hizi institutions zote kama TUM, kama JKUAT, zote zinatoa watoto wa kike wanaosoma nautical science na marine engineering. Na sasa hii kwa meli, wacha niwaambie kuwa tuko na wasichana plumber, tuna wasichana electrician wanaingia ndani ya meli kama watoto wa kike.
Vijana wetu wajue kwamba serikali iko on top of everything with respect to recruitment ya mabaharia.
Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
From that story, we get back to our conversation here on matters Ghana and Kenya trade relations. In studio, I have Alexander Dajawa. He is the director at Ghana Export Promotion Authority, as well as Honorable Catherine Afeku, the African Continental Free Trade Area Ghana Office Head of Communications. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
Before we took that story, Honorable Afeku, you were talking about the involvement of young people.
Yes.
And Alexander, I would like to find out from you, since you are leading the Export Promotion Authority, are you seeing more young people taking advantage of these opportunities that such agreements are opening up?
Yes. To be frank with you, we are seeing a lot of them. In fact, the expo that we've just opened this morning at the Sarit Expo Center, we are bringing close to 70 different Ghanaian SMEs to the show, and I can tell you the majority of them are young people, and more interestingly, majority are women, young women who are taking advantage of market opportunities. They are doing great things. As far as Ghana is concerned, we have seen a steady rise in the level of youth involved in SMEs, which is a very, very good sign. And they are doing wonderful products. If you come to the show, you'll see the range of products that they have, particularly in cosmetics and cocoa-based products. That's chocolates, both artisanal and medium-sized manufacturing companies. So I would say that, yes, it's on the rise. The young people are taking advantage. But we need to do a lot more education and information that will be available to them on the opportunities that are available. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to set up the trade house, because we want to expose their products to the market. Don't be mistaken, these are quality products that we have to offer. So the short of it is that, yes, the young people are really, really interested, not only in goods, but in services. And Kenya is an IT hub, and I'm sure that you know that the youth are the ones leading this revolution, and the same is for Ghana. So not only selling the product, but also can we do integration by way of the youth coming together to form JVs? Your guess is as good as mine, but Honorable will build on that.
Right, Honorable Afeku, I see you nodding very strongly in
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very encouraging. As the Honorable Member Twalib had mentioned, the blue economy is also huge opportunities for logistics, transport, because as you produce these goods from point A to point B, you need businessmen and women to ensure its arrival, and it's even the payment systems. You have a very robust M-Pesa architecture. These are products that the ecosystem of IT, spearheaded by the young people, can lead. But alongside the Ghana exhibition, we also have about 28 Kenyan companies at the Sarit Expo Center also exhibiting alongside, just to deepen the ties between Ghana and Kenya. So it's not just a one-sided exhibition. We've also brought in our counterparts from Kenya under the, I think it's the Kenya Authority, the equivalent of the Keproba.
Right.
They're also there spearheading the collaboration. But this morning, we did something very significant on Mombasa Road at Samia Park. We've opened Ghana Trade House. So it's an edifice that's permanently here that will have shelves of all the Ghanaian products that are being exhibited and more. So it will be stocked, so people can actually go there. But now with technology, you can just order online. And the unique advantage we have is shea butter, cocoa. So this morning, one of your leaders, Mr. Oliver Konje, also gave a very good testimony about not competing against each other as Africans, but focus on the competitive advantage. And you know, Ghana is shea butter, Ghana is cocoa, Kenya is tea, Kenya is coffee. So you've already started the reciprocity of having your products on shelves in Ghana. Now we've also had the opportunity to bring ours here. So we will encourage our KBC to be our advocacy partner, to encourage more women, especially young women, to take on the entrepreneurship attitude and be self-sufficient and financially independent as well.
Awesome. Let's hope they take advantage of those opportunities. Thank you very much for speaking with us. I'm afraid we ran out of time. That's all we had for the interview. I have been speaking with Alexander Dajawa. I keep getting that wrong. Sorry. Dajawa. He is a director at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, as well as Honorable Catherine Afeku, head of communications at the African Continental Free Trade Area Coordination Office in Ghana. We have talked about Ghana and Kenya trade relations, how to ensure that the opportunities brought about by agreements such as the AfCFTA are taken advantage of and our people are empowered economically. Let's move on to other news now. Tullow Oil PLC working interest in South Lokichar Basin will increase from 50% to 100% following the withdrawal of 2 joint venture partners at the Turkana County-based Project Oil Kenya Development. Tullow Kenya BV Managing Director Madan says the full control will give Tullow Oil more flexibility in the ongoing process to secure strategic partners and create a simpler joint venture partnership.
Tullow Oil PLC and its partners Africa Oil Corp and Total Energies have been under pressure from Kenya to develop the Turkana crude oil wells that can produce up to 120,000 barrels per day once production starts. However, the crude oil production process has not been short of challenges, threatening to throw Kenya's dream of being a crude oil exporter into uncertainty. Oil and gas exploration production firm Tullow now says it has acquired complete control of the Turkana County-based Project Oil Kenya Development following the exit of Africa Oil Corp and Total Energies from the project. Tullow Oil Management says the assumption of 100% equity position subject to the government's approval will enable them fulfill the government's plan to become an oil exporter. Tullow's OilNet project 2C contingent resources are expected to increase from 231 million barrels of crude oil per day to 461 barrels of crude oil per day, taking the group's total contingent resources from 605 barrels of crude oil per day to 836 barrels of crude oil per day. Net capex guidance for 2023 in Kenya will increase from 10 million Canadian dollars to 15 million Canadian dollars, less than 5% of group capex. Finalizing the field development plan process is a high priority program that has seen the National Treasury allocate 651 million shillings to the State Department for Petroleum, geared at advancing Project Oil Kenya. The State Department for Petroleum is set to finalize the field development plan for the South Lokichar oil field, review, demarcate and gazette a new block map in view of the anticipated bid rounds during the period. Trevor Ngendo for Lunchtime News.
Trevor Ngendo's story there brings a close to the business news this particular afternoon, but of course sports news is coming up. Ben Troinjwe is on standby. My name is Betty Kiptum. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
In sports, the Kenya national rugby sevens team Shujaa returned home last night from London, where they competed in the final leg of the season's World Sevens Series. The sevens team lost 7-12 to Canada in the final playoff match and was relegated from the tournament.
The Kenya national rugby team is back in the country after losing their core status in the World Series. Shujaa was beaten 7-12 by Canada on Sunday evening and was relegated from the World Series. The Kenyan team did not collect any points from the London leg and ended the season with 40 points, amassed from the previous legs, including Toulouse, which was played just before London. Kenya began the London leg with a narrow 24-19 win over Canada in the first pool playoff match before beating Tonga 38-26 in their second encounter. Kenya tumbled against Uruguay, suffering a 14-10 loss before going down to Canada 12-7. The season ended with Kenya sitting in position 13 on the table behind Uruguay. New Zealand were crowned champion of the 2022-2023 season with a massive 200 points, 21 points better than Argentina, who finished second. Fiji, France and Australia settled for 3rd to 5th positions, while the other African side, South Africa, ended the season in position 7 with just 120 points.
All the best to Shujaa as they try to